On the day of the college entrance exam, I deliberately left 5 questions unanswered on every paper, also I could attend the same university as my boyfriend, but he ended up exceeding all expectations, getting into a top-tier 985 university in Haishur and flying off into the sunset with his one true love. Meanwhile, someone who had the potential to get into Tsinghua or Peking University, ended up at a third-rate college, after being reborn. I swore I would take back everything that was rightfully mine. 1. I've been reborn, right here in the middle of the national college entrance exam. There's no time to wonder if this is a dream or reality. Staring at the test paper, I vow that this time, I absolutely will not throw away my chance at a top-tier university for the sake of some guy. Looking at those familiar questions, I pour every ounce of my ability into them. This time, I am definitely getting into the best university. The words flowed from my pen as if guided by a divine hand. I gave it my absolute all. When I finally left the exam hall, I was still in a daze. I gave myself a hard slap across the face to confirm this wasn't a dream. My parents, who were there to pick me up, saw me slap myself the moment I walked out and rushed over in a panic. Lin Wanwan, have you lost your mind from the college entrance exams? My mom cried out as she grabbed hold of me, seeing the anxious looks on my parents' faces. Tears instantly streamed down my cheeks. Then, I threw my head back and let out 3 wild laughs at the sky. Ha ha ha, Lin Wanwan is back. I, Lin Wanwan, am going to Tsinghua University. My mom took in my tearful, laughing state and exchanged a look with my dad. The silent message was clear. This kid has lost her marbles from the stress of the exams. But I knew I wasn't crazy. I was just overjoyed. I actually had a chance to turn this whole situation around. Jihan, this time. I'm going to wipe that smug look right off your face. Jihan is my boyfriend. We were desk mates in our second year of high school, and in our final year, he confessed his feelings to me. I liked him too, so we naturally started dating. For the college entrance exam, we agreed to go to the same university. However, I was ranked in the top 5 in our grade, while Jihan was only around 200th, to get into the same school. I would have had to score about 100 points lower to have a chance. Jihan asked me if I was willing to do that for him. He painted such a vivid picture of our future life together at university. I was completely swept away, my judgment clouded by infatuation, and I ended up intentionally leaving 5 questions unanswered in each subject for his sake. Looking back, I should have just gone to dig for wild herbs, but what I never could have imagined was this. I went to find him. Overjoyed and clutching the acceptance letter from the third-rate university we'd agreed on, only to see him locked in a passionate kiss with Zhou Qin from our class. Heartbroken and furious, I rushed forward and slapped Jihan hard across the face, shouting, Jihan, how could you betray me like this? But to my shock, Jihan, who had always been so gentle and attentive to me, slapped me right back. Lin Wanwan, he sneered, take a good look at yourself. Someone like you doesn't deserve to be with me. He shoved me to the ground and pulled Zhou Qin, who was wearing a white princess dress, into his arms. Lin Wanwan, I'll be straight with you. I got into Haida University, and I'm going there with Qin soon. Just look at yourself. What do you have on Qin? You're not as pretty, your grades aren't as good, and you look downright shabby. Go rot away in some third-rate university and stay at the bottom of the heap forever. After Jihan finished speaking, he walked off with his arm around Zhou Qin. Before she left, she shot me a look of utter contempt, as if I were trash, so high and mighty, looking down on everyone with disdain, still radiating with the smugness of success, the relatives' cutting remarks, my parents' disappointment, my boyfriend's betrayal, and Zhou Qin's smug triumph. All of it replayed in my mind after failing the college entrance exam. Thank goodness fate gave me a second chance. Sending me back to the exam hall 2 months ago, this time, I poured everything I have into it. I'm going to make them pay, and pay dearly, too. The day after the exams, Jihan called me, tentatively asking if I'd intentionally scored 100 points lower for his sake. I deliberately softened my voice and cooed, of course, darling, don't you trust me? I'm really looking forward to us getting into the same university. Hearing my sweet talk, Jihan was reassured, of course I trust you. He said, I'm already looking at apartments near the campus, we'll be together every day soon. Jihan was just feeding me empty promises, but usually at times like this, Jihan's next words are always a request. By the way, I've got my eye on a new pair of shoes, could you transfer me 2,000 yuan first? In the less than a year we've been dating, Jihan has already found all sorts of excuses for me to send him money to buy things. Blinded by love, I've been all too willing to oblige. Granting almost every request, to lower Jihan's guard, I still sent him the money, but this time it was 500 instead of 2,000. Sweetheart, I only have 500 left on me, take this for now, I said, feigning guilt as if it were my fault for not buying Jihan the sneakers. Jihan's tone instantly shifted. Lin Wanwan, how can you be so broke? If you have no money, go out and get a part-time job. Beep, beep, beep. Before I could even get a word in, Jihan hung up. Yet a message on WeChat immediately followed, pressing me to send him money. I lowered my gaze and transferred the money to Jihan. Jihan has always been obsessed with saving face, putting on a lavish act in front of others. Only I know how desperately strapped for cash he really is in private, which is why he keeps coming to me for money, again and again. When I caught the two of them together, Zhou Qin was still holding the Chanel lipstick that Jihan had bought for her. What she probably didn't know was that he'd used my money to pay for it. It was only then that I found out Jihan had been in love with Zhou Qin for 3 years. She had always turned him down before, but suddenly agreed to be with him right after our college entrance exams. Something about that timing just didn't sit right with me, but I know a secret about Jihan that no one else does. He's not the rich second-generation heir he pretends to be. In reality, he's the son of our housekeeper. Auntie Zhang, yes, I, Lin Wanwan, am from a wealthy family. It's just that my parents don't like me drawing too much attention at school, so I always wear my uniform and keep a very low profile. Back in elementary school, Auntie Zhang's mother-in-law fell ill, so she brought her son to stay at our house for a few days. The moment I saw Jihan, I recognized him. I had planned to tell him everything once we got into the same university. Before I could even tell him, he had already cheated on me with Zhou Qin and even schemed to sabotage my chances of getting into a top university. I've been acting completely normal these past few days, and Jihan hasn't suspected a thing. My homeroom teacher called me into school to estimate my scores, and the two of us went over my answers several times. With a look of delighted surprise, my homeroom teacher patted me on the shoulder and said, Wanwan, if our calculations are right, you could get into Tsinghua or Peking University with no problem. I gave a shy smile, but inside I was thinking, as if I'd go easy. I, Lin Wanwan, gave it my absolute all. I was so happy I skipped out of the office, but in my giddy excitement, I stepped on a plastic water bottle. I went down hard, heading face first for a full-on, spread-eagle sprawl on the floor. Out of nowhere, a pair of large hands caught me right under my stomach. Yep, my stomach, my belly, pleasantly full and a little round. Are you alright? A cool, detached voice sounded by my ear. I looked up and saw a handsome, refined young man. A teardrop mole at the corner of his eye added a touch of alluring charm to his otherwise pure and elegant features. It was Duanyi, the boy who perpetually held the top spot in their school's grade rankings. I looked up and met his gaze. His eyes were deep and profound, like a sea of stars. I am fine, I stammered, flustered by his intense look. Thank you. I lowered my head, not daring to look at him again, and quickly turned and ran. In my haste, I slipped on the wet floor at the corner and landed hard on my backside. Feeling utterly embarrassed, I made a quick escape, but I faintly heard a muffled chuckle behind me. Who on earth was so tactless as to laugh at someone? Could it possibly be that top-ranked student? The one known for his pristine and lofty demeanor. 3. The results came out soon after, and I ranked 10th in the entire province. I heard the top scorer in the province is also at our school. I didn't even have to think twice to know it was that boy with the serene, moonlit grace. That day, Jihan called me to ask about my score. I told him I got 475, which was just enough to make the cutoff for a bachelor's degree program. I heard Jihan let out a long sigh of relief. That's great, Wanwan. We're definitely going to the same university. Hearing Jihan say that, I chuckled and shot back. Darling, what score did you get? Probably around the same as mine, right? Jihan stammered a bit. Around the same, yeah, definitely around the same. Then he hurriedly hung up the phone. I let out a soft, derisive laugh. For the past couple of days, the admissions offices of Tsinghua and Peking University had been calling, fighting over a top 10 provincial student like me. Even offering full scholarship packages. Does Jihan really think I'm going to ruin my life over a stupid crush again? Just like before, when it came time to submit my university preferences, I thought it over and finally chose Tsinghua. After all, Tsinghua has always been my dream university. I gave it all up for Jihan last time, but I absolutely won't give up this time. Just then, the news on TV was broadcasting an interview with Haiching's top scorer in the college entrance exams. I looked closer, and sure enough, the top scorer was Duanyi. The young man, dressed in white with dark hair and an aloof demeanor, was at that moment confidently and spiritedly giving an interview to the television station. Duanyi, we've heard the admissions offices of Tsinghua and Peking University have been bombarding your home phone. Have you decided which school you'll attend? I could practically see stars in that female reporter's eyes. The aloof young man gave a faint smile and said, I've decided on Tsinghua. Why did you choose Tsinghua over Peking University? Because someone once said her dream was to ride a bike and feel the breeze through the Tsinghua campus. The boy's pleasant voice reached my ears, and my heart gave a violent jolt. I looked up in surprise. I had said those exact words back in my first year of high school, when I was utterly captivated by the idea of life at Tsinghua. How could someone have said the exact same thing to Duanyi as I did? Surely the person he's talking about isn't me, right? I smacked my own face hard. Lin Wanwan, don't be so full of yourself. Even though I told myself not to be so vain, I ended up dreaming about Duanyi all night. 4. The acceptance letter has arrived. It's time to put Jihan in his place. For the past few days, I had someone follow Jihan and Zhou Qin, specifically waiting for the moment when they were together before I made my appearance. I made a point of wearing a Chanel suit, getting my hair done, and dressing up meticulously. Around my neck was the $1 million necklace my mother gave me for my 18th birthday. I gazed at the beautiful, refined reflection in the mirror. I looked every bit the part of a wealthy heiress. I made a point of asking Auntie Zhang to come with me. I was going to humiliate Jihan right in front of everyone. Ever since I was reborn, I've done a thorough investigation into Auntie Zhang. In my memory, Auntie Zhang was always so simple and capable, so how on earth did her son, Jihan, turn out like that? Something just doesn't feel right. I asked our butler, Uncle Zhou, to keep a close eye on Aunt Zhang's behavior. To my surprise, he actually uncovered quite a few suspicious things. For instance, my mother often lost valuable items, but we could never figure out who was taking them. According to Uncle Zhou's investigation, every time something went missing from our house, a new item would appear in Aunt Zhang's home. Another example is the kitchen supplies. The 3 housekeepers take turns doing the shopping, but in the months when it was Aunt Zhang's turn, the things she bought were always exorbitantly expensive, costing more than the other 2 housekeepers combined. Mrs. Zhang claimed she had gone out of her way to buy imported ingredients, but in reality, what she purchased was no different from what the other housekeepers bought. She was simply padding the bills and pocketing the difference for her own gain. I decided to teach that mother-son duo, who had been playing me for a fool, a harsh lesson. Chapter 2, Premium Content. I had the driver park the car near the cafe where Jihan and Zhou Qin were meeting. I told both the driver and Mrs. Zhang to wait for me outside. I walked into the cafe with my Dior tote bag, only to find Jihan and Zhou Qin sharing a seat, completely lost in a kiss as if no one else was around. As I moved closer, I could even hear the wet, sloppy sounds of their kiss. Gone was the earlier heartbreak and anger, replaced now by a wave of cold disgust that made my skin crawl. With a smile playing on my lips, I took a seat across from them. It didn't take long for Jihan to notice my presence. He released Zhou Qin with a look of shock, exclaiming loudly, Lin Wanwan, what are you doing here? As he took in my outfit for the day, the flash of admiration in his eyes was unmistakable. He was looking at me with an expression I'd never seen before, but instead of feeling flattered, I was just disgusted. I'm here to watch you 2 cheaters in action, I said, holding up my phone. Don't stop on my account. I was just getting some great footage. Lin Wanwan, you've gone too far. Jihan's anger boiled over. He slammed his hand on the table. Watch your mouth. Zhou Qin looked at me with contempt, as if waiting to see me flustered after being yelled at by Jihan. Unfortunately for her, I didn't give her the satisfaction. I just smiled faintly and said, Jihan, let's break up. Jihan probably never expected me to dump him first. His pride was wounded, and he blurted out the exact same line as in our past life. Lin Wanwan, I'm the one breaking up with you. I got into Haida University, and I'm going there with Qin Qin. Take a good look at yourself. What makes you think you can compare to Qin Qin? You're not as pretty, your grades are worse, and you look downright pathetic. You barely scraped by with a score in the 400s. Get lost and rot in that third-rate university of yours. Jihan said those words without a shred of remorse, completely oblivious to how he had ruined my life. Jihan stared down at me from his high horse, waiting to see the agony on my face, but I refused to give him the satisfaction. Oh, Ocean University, is it? Sorry to disappoint, but I got into Tsinghua. Under their bewildered and doubtful gazes, I pulled the Tsinghua University acceptance letter from my bag, slapped it onto the table, and flashed them a sweet smile. 5. Jihan lunged forward onto the table, staring at the acceptance letter which clearly stated that I had been admitted to Tsinghua University. How is this possible? It can't be. He glared at her. Lin Wanwan, Didn't you say you only scored a little over 400? Is he seriously blaming me for not falling into his trap? I scoffed lightly. Didn't you also claim you barely scraped past the undergraduate cutoff? Same difference. When Zhou Qin saw my admission letter, she was so furious she stomped hard on Jihan's foot. Her eyes burning with resentment and anguish as she stared at the document. A thought suddenly dawned on me. Even if Jihan disliked me so much, he could have just not been with me. Why did he have to ruin my entire life? But what if this wasn't Jihan's idea, but someone else's doing? My eyes narrowed dangerously as I stared at the sweet-looking girl in the white princess dress standing next to Jihan, but suspicions aside, I had more important business here. I pulled another sheet of paper from my bag. Oh, and here's a list of everything I bought for you and all the money I transferred over the past year. You have 3 days to pay me back, or I'm going to the police. What did you say? Jihan snatched the bill, his face contorting with rage as he saw the total. You gave me all this stuff yourself. What gives you the right to demand it back? I raised an eyebrow. I said, 3 days or I call the cops. What's the matter, young Master Ji? Can't afford it. Provoked by my taunt, Jihan's face flushed bright red instantly. Fine, I'll pay you back. He slammed the phone I bought for him down in front of me, shattering it instantly. I just smiled and said, and the shoes you're wearing today, the jacket, I bought all of it. If you've got so much pride, why don't you take them off? Jihan was furious. Fine, I will. He proceeded to strip off his shoes and jacket right there in public. I watched him and Zhou Qin with amusement. I didn't miss the flash of disgust in Zhou Qin's eyes. I called Mrs. Zhang and asked her to come into the dining room to help me clear these things away. You're calling someone to help you. Don't you have hands of your own? Perhaps embarrassed in front of everyone, Jihan snapped at me the moment he saw me on the phone. I smiled sweetly. I've called my housekeeper to fetch it. I certainly won't be carrying something a lowlife has worn. Jihan looked down on me. Lin Wanwan. Have you lost your mind? A pauper like you can afford a housekeeper, and you have the nerve to flaunt that fake Dior bag. You'll see whether I can afford it or not when my housekeeper gets here. I looked at my genuine designer bag and smiled mysteriously. I watched as Mrs. Zhang walked in through the shop door and said obsequiously, Miss, I'm here to help you with your things. Jihan saw Mrs. Zhang and blurted out in shock, Mom, what are you doing here? 6. Hearing Jihan call her Aunt Zhang turned around in surprise. Han Han, what are you doing here? Aunt Zhang looked again at the item in her hand. Wasn't this her son's clothing? What are you doing with the young miss? Aunt Zhang looked from her son to me, a look of utter confusion on her face. I said to Mrs. Zhang with a smile, Mrs. Zhang, I'm dating your son. Mrs. Zhang's face instantly lit up with unconcealable delight, probably thinking she had hitched her wagon to a wealthy family, but we've broken up now. Mrs. Zhang's face instantly flushed with a mix of embarrassment and anger. She immediately gave Jihan a sharp slap on the arm. Hanin, you must have done something to upset the young lady. Apologize to her right now. Jihan was stunned. He never imagined that the person he'd always looked down on was actually the daughter of the family his own mother worked for as a housekeeper. I looked at Zhou Qin and said, Jihan's been lying to you this whole time, pretending to be some rich kid, right? Well, the truth is, he's just the son of my family's housekeeper. He's given you gifts, hasn't he? Ha, probably bought with my money. Zhou Qin's face flushed with a mix of fury and humiliation as she looked at me. In one swift motion, she slapped Jihan across the face. You liar. Then, clutching her bag, she hurried away, likely too embarrassed to stay and face the humiliation any longer. Qin. Jihan looked at me, then at Zhou Qin, and for a moment, his face actually showed an expression of being torn between two choices. It seems that after realizing my status was out of the ordinary, his attitude changed completely. Jihan, Auntie Zhang, since you're both here, I'll speak frankly and lay all my cards on the table. Jihan, you have 3 days to return the money and items I transferred to you, and Mrs. Zhang must return all the money she embezzled and the things she stole from my house. I said flatly, without a trace of emotion, Miss. You must be mistaken. I have always been loyal to the Lin family. I would never do such a thing. Mrs. Zhang's eyes welled up, her face flushed with the shame and indignation of being falsely accused. A misunderstanding. I pulled a stack of mismatched receipts from my bag, then took out my tablet and played the video. As Mrs. Zhang walked from the garden to the main gate, she was clearly holding my mother's jewelry box in her hands. Take a look, Mrs. Zhang. See if it's still a misunderstanding. Mrs. Zhang instantly crumpled to the floor. I looked down at her from my full height. You get 3 days as well. You must return everything to me within 3 days, or I'm calling the police. I let out a soft, derisive laugh. At most, Your son might pay me back a little money, but for a theft like yours. If I call the police, you're looking at jail time, aren't you? Jihan spoke to me in a placating tone. Won, we loved each other once. Can't you just let us go, me and my mother? I promise I'll treat you right from now on. I'll cut all ties with that homewrecker. Zhou Qin, so when I was poor, Zhou Qin was your pure white moonlight, but now that I have money, she's suddenly a scheming fox spirit. Is that it, a love affair? I reached out and slapped Jihan hard across the face. You piece of trash, you're not even worthy. I suggest you stop wasting your breath and go raise some money instead. Otherwise, with this business involving you and your mother, I can't guarantee you'll be starting school smoothly. I turned and walked away, and the two of them came running after me. Won, miss. Under the hopeful gazes of both of them, I stepped into the family's Rolls-Royce, the limited edition model, the only one of its kind in the entire city. 7. After thoroughly putting Jihan in his place, I cheerfully asked the driver to take me to the entrance of my favorite dessert shop. I'm going to eat a ton of desserts to celebrate. I had just stepped out of the car when a voice called out to me, a quiet, youthful voice. Lin Wanwan. I turned around, and who should it be but Duan Yi, the top scholar who's been the talk of the town lately. The moment he called my name, my face flushed bright red. I had actually dreamed about him last night. And here he was in the flesh today. He was leaning against a Maybach. I remembered the rumors about this top scholar's unfathomable family background. Do you know me? Duan Yi and I weren't in the same class, and we didn't usually have any contact. If I had to name an interaction, it was that day I slipped on a bottle and he helped me up. The young man chuckled softly. More than just know you, you saved me once. Me, Lin Wanwan, actually had it in me to save someone. That was something I never would have imagined. Duan Yi nodded. Back in 9th grade, Duan Yi and I were in the same school in 9th grade. Back then, he wasn't this tall or this handsome. He was even shorter than me. Once, some senior high school students had him cornered and were beating him up. I was the one who rushed in and saved him. After all, I'm Lin Wanwan, a Taekwondo black belt. I've had a strong sense of justice and a chivalrous spirit since I was a kid. Hearing Duan Yi say that, my lost memories slowly came flooding back. So you're that really pretty kid. I did save a kid once, but I always thought he was a 6th grader in elementary school. Sorry about that. I always remembered him as a 6th grader. I had no idea you were so young back then. Short. I was too embarrassed to say the word out loud. Duan Yi seemed to know what I was thinking. He smiled and said, yeah, I was a bit short back then. Are you going to buy some dessert? Duan Yi asked. Noticing how I kept staring at the pastry shop, I gave a nod. My treat. Consider it thanks for saving me. Before I could even process what was happening, Duan Yi had already pulled me into the dessert shop. The boy's palm felt cool against mine. When I looked up, all I saw was the back of his head, and his slightly flushed earlobes. So he was embarrassed too. Duan Yi was incredibly generous. He bought every dessert I so much as glanced at. By the time we left the patisserie, both our hands were full of sweet treats. I gave a wry smile. Isn't this a bit too grand a gesture of thanks? He looked at me with a smile in his eyes. Not at all. For Lin Wanwan, any amount of fuss is worth it. My heart skipped a beat. Duan Yi helped me put all the desserts in the trunk, then reached out and ruffled my hair. Lin Wanwan, I'll be waiting for you at Tsinghua. I was momentarily stunned by the head pat, then instinctively replied, okay, I don't know why, but I'm suddenly certain now. The person Duan Yi was talking about is me. He wanted to get into Tsinghua University for my sake. Gazing into his deep, affectionate eyes, I felt myself falling for him in that moment. 8. That day, a call came in from an unknown number. Lin Wanwan, can you come out for a moment? It was Zhou Qin. I hadn't even gone to settle the score with her yet, and she comes looking for me first. Of course I wasn't about to refuse. We arranged to meet at the cafe in front of the school, feeling pretty smug. Are you? Zhou Qin sat across from me, glaring at me through gritted teeth. I took a sip of my coffee. What makes you think I'm smug? You got into Tsinghua. How could you not be smug? The way Zhou Qin looked at me, you'd think we had some generational blood feud. I gave a light chuckle. Things didn't go your way, did they? Zhou Qin, it was you who told Jihan to do it, wasn't it? To date me on purpose. To tell me I had to score lower on the exams to be with him at the same university. You just wanted to ruin me, right? I said, all the while secretly recording under the table. You're disgusting. I was deliberately trying to provoke Zhou Qin. Zhou Qin was well and truly provoked. She slammed her hand on the table. So what if I am? Lin Wanwan, how on earth did you get into Tsinghua University? I tilted my head in confusion. How? With my brilliant mind, of course, Lin Wanwan. You know what I hate most about you, that smug look on your face, like you have everything under control. But why? I don't think I'm any worse than you. Why does Duanye like you? Hearing Duanye's name, my heart couldn't help but beat a little faster, but I had no contact with him at all during our 3 years of high school, I said truthfully. Upon hearing my words, Zhou Qin couldn't help but show an even more ferocious expression. Are you bragging? Bragging that even though you had no contact for 3 years, he still can't forget you? I confessed to Duanye in my second year of high school. I, Zhou Qin, consider myself beautiful and outstanding. All my life, it's always been boys chasing after me. I was so sure that someone like me confessing to Duanye would be a sure thing. But he actually turned me down. He said he already liked someone else. And that person turned out to be you, someone who's not even in my league. I never imagined Zhou Qin would find out about Duanye's feelings for me before I did. What is she even talking about? My grades are top 3 in the year, and looks-wise, we're not even the same type. Where on earth does she get the confidence to think she's better than me? And that Jihan you're so hung up on, he chased me for 2 whole years, so, I came up with a plan. I had him pretend his grades were slipping, then during the college entrance exams, he'd tell you, making you score over 100 points lower so you'd end up at the same university as him. That way, you and Duanye would never meet at Tsinghua. Ha, I really thought you were that gullible. Turns out you're just as scheming, tricking Jihan all along. You're way too full of yourself. Just because I performed at my usual level, you think I'm some master schemer, who's the real snake plotting behind people's backs, I said mockingly. My words had clearly gotten under Zhou Qin's skin. She made a move to stand up, looking ready to slap me. I could tell exactly what she was about to do. In the blink of an eye, I dumped my coffee right over her head. It was an iced Americano. Talk about a rude awakening. I could see the ice cubes had left red marks on her forehead and nose. Lin Wanwan, Zhou Qin shouted furiously. I waved my phone. What do you want? Oh, and I recorded our entire conversation just now. You're finished. I turned to leave, then stopped and looked back at Zhou Qin. Oh, and settle the bill. Ignoring Zhou Qin's livid expression, I walked away with a smile. 9. As soon as I got home, I had someone mute the parts about Duanye in the recording, leaving only Zhou Qin's confession about how she framed me. After all, Duanye is innocent. And I didn't want to drag him into this. I posted the recording to the forums of Haiqing University and our high school, and it caused an uproar almost instantly. Everyone was helping me denounce Jihan and Zhou Qin for their despicable actions. The two of them became utterly infamous, both at our high school and at the university they were about to attend. Jihan and Aunt Zhang scrambled to borrow money from everywhere, but there was still a huge shortfall they couldn't cover. Jihan then knelt down and begged me, Lin Wanwan, for the sake of the relationship we once had, please just let me off the hook. I kicked him away and said coldly, let you off the hook? If I had really ruined my life because you cost me 100 points on that exam, who would have let me off the hook? I'll give you 1 more day. If you can't pay up by then, you can kiss your mom's freedom goodbye. Jihan and Mrs. Zhang scrambled off in a frantic, undignified rush to borrow money. Seeing Jihan's pathetic and sleazy state, I couldn't for the life of me remember what I ever saw in him. The first day of school arrived before we knew it. Duanye was right after all. The moment I arrived at Tsinghua, I ran into him. The young man was wearing a white shirt, as pure and bright as the moon, pulling a black suitcase. He looked at me and broke into a smile. Lin Wanwan. He took the initiative to carry my suitcase for me. The gentle breeze brushed against my cheeks on the way. A comfort I had never felt before. Then, I heard the boy's soft, gentle voice beside me. Lin Wanwan, may I pursue you? Gazing at the boy's delicate profile, I found myself inexplicably saying, okay, looking at the boy, then at the Tsinghua campus around me. I knew the obscure past was finally behind me, and a bright, beautiful future lay ahead. In the end, I, Lin Wanwan, finally found myself and the person who truly loves me. The end. Story 2. I tested positive for HIV. At the company annual meeting, my test report and an intimate photo were displayed on the big screen, pointed at by thousands. I was utterly humiliated throughout Jiangqing, becoming a social pariah that everyone feared to mention. My husband didn't divorce me or blame me, but simply accepted and cared for me. I was deeply moved and felt even more guilty and uneasy. The dual torment of mental anguish and illness drove me to madness, and I was eventually sent to a psychiatric hospital. In the psychiatric hospital, I jumped from the 10th floor. Everyone thought I had jumped to my death due to emotional distress, but no one knew the truth. My husband and my best friend, fearing their secret would be exposed, pushed me off the building. But I was reborn the day before going to the beauty salon with my best friend and contracting AIDS. Eve Xia, it's settled for tomorrow. I'll pick you up at your office at 3 p.m. The voice of my best friend, Ruby Fong, came through the phone. Alright, I agreed and hung up the call, glancing at the clock on the wall. It was already 9 p.m., and Knox Ching still hadn't returned. Knox Ching and I had a marriage of convenience, not exactly deep affection, but we treated each other with respect, well-matched in social status, both sets of parents were satisfied, and we found each other acceptable. I thought that was the best kind of marriage. Little did I know, reality would slap me hard in the face. After getting engaged, I found out that Knox Cheng's family had only assigned him a nearly bankrupt company. While the Shin Group was also facing a financial crisis, the Shin family had stockpiled a batch of silver mines, but the price of silver plummeted, resulting in a loss of several $100 million if they were to sell. For this batch of silver mines, the Shin family had staked 3/4 of their assets. Unable to sell the silver mines and with their funds tied up, they set their sights on my family. My father and Knox Cheng's father have been business partners for many years, as well as old classmates and close friends. Knowing about the silver mine incident, he still didn't ask me to break off the engagement. After all, in business, investment failures are quite common. It doesn't necessarily mean someone has ulterior motives. He even lent the Shin family $100 million to help them maintain normal operations and keep their cash flow stable. I didn't see any issue with this either, as it was purely a business matter. After the engagement, I used the dowry my parents had prepared for me to invest in Knox Cheng's company, Shiyan Jewelry, becoming its largest shareholder. After marriage, Knox Cheng was very attentive and caring toward me. He would cook delicious meals for me, deliver snacks to my office, and his words were always filled with affection and admiration. Everyone at Shiyan Company knew that Knox Cheng cherished his wife above all else, obeying my every word, making him the model husband candidate for a time. I was also very satisfied with Knox Cheng. He wasn't particularly good at business, but he never interfered with company matters, always deferring to me, content to play the supportive role. Thanks to my efforts, within 5 years, Shiyan Company not only turned losses into profits but also quickly dominated the jewelry market in Jiangqing, becoming a rising star in the industry. That's probably why, in my past life, I trusted him so completely. Without a shred of suspicion, I looked at my phone, flipped through it, and found a name in the contacts. In my past life, I was able to learn the truth all because of Kalgu. I became the laughingstock of the entire city and was eventually sent to a mental hospital. Even I myself thought it was my own fault, that I had gotten drunk and had an intimate encounter with a male model, which led to me contracting AIDS. Knox Cheng was able to understand and accept me, filling me with gratitude and trust. Only Kalgu noticed that something was wrong and secretly investigated, eventually finding his way to the mental hospital to tell me the truth. In this life, I was reborn. And when I wanted to find someone to help, the first person I thought of was still him. Of course, I also wanted to say thank you to him. I made the call, although it was already very late. Kalgu still came out to meet me right away. I'm looking for someone named Ning, 19 years old, a college student. I got straight to the point. This was what Kalgu had found out in my previous life, but in this lifetime, he remains completely unaware of everything. The reason he contracted AIDS in his previous life was because of this female college student. Ruby Fong accidentally encountered Ning, learned she had AIDS, and then conceived malicious intentions. This female college student came from a poor family. Her father was a gambler, and her mother was bedridden with illness. To pay for her mother's treatment, she resorted to selling her body and ended up contracting AIDS. Ruby Fong found her and gave her a large sum of money. Arranging the drama at Tomorrow Beauty Salon. Okay, I'll do it as soon as possible. Kalgu didn't even ask why I wanted to find a college student and agreed directly. Thinking back to my previous life, I couldn't accept that I had contracted AIDS and was too ashamed to face anyone. Kalgu came to see me, but I didn't meet him. The next time I saw him was in the mental hospital, when I was so broken by the torment inside that I only wished to end my miserable life. Yet he revealed that cruel truth, saying if I wanted revenge, he could help me. Why didn't you even ask me why I was looking for a stranger? I chuckled lightly. Kalgu's lips curled slightly as he spoke with utmost sincerity. I'm truly glad you reached out to me. We've known each other for 10 years. Your matters are my matters. No need to ask further. My voice choked with emotion. This belated gratitude was what I owed him. Thank you, Kalgu. But I need to see Ning tomorrow morning. Right now, you're the only one who can help me. With Kalgu's help, I feel completely at ease. Kalgu's abilities are beyond doubt. finding a college student, even with just a name, should still be relatively easy. After all, there are only 3 universities in Jiangqing. That night, Noxching indeed did not return home. In the past, I would have called to ask about the situation, but today I went straight to sleep, though not peacefully. I dreamed of my past life in the psychiatric hospital, where I had to take endless medications and undergo electrotherapy. Everyone thought I was insane, but in truth, I wasn't insane, I just couldn't control my emotions anymore. After the incident, though I was emotionally drained and mentally exhausted, I would never have lashed out at or hit my parents. The truth Cao Gu told me was that while I was recuperating at home, the medication Noxching gave me contained substances that could cause mental instability. He wanted my parents to believe I had truly developed mental illness, making it easier to persuade them to agree to send me to a psychiatric hospital, thereby getting rid of me without tarnishing his good reputation. After waking from the dream, I was seething with hatred, suppressing the urge to beat Noxching to death. I called him and said I was going to visit my parents' house. He didn't suspect anything, as it was common for me to visit my parents on a whim, back at my own home. Dad had gone to the company, and Mom was practicing Bajuanjin in the garden. "Why are you back, sweetie?" Mom was surprised to see me, and I immediately went up and hugged her. In the 5 years since getting married, I'd been absorbed in my work. Although I often came home, each visit was rushed, and I rarely hugged Mom like this anymore. In my previous life, after the accident, my parents' hair turned white overnight, and my mother nearly cried herself blind. In this life, I won't let that happen again. I just hope my parents stay healthy. Mom, it's nothing. I'm just being lazy and wanted to see you. I took my mother's hand and sat her down, then stayed to have tea with her. Mom noticed my pale complexion and asked nervously, "Did you not sleep well? Or did you have a fight with Noxching?" I didn't tell her the truth, just smiled and said, "Not at all, no fight, I just missed you and came back to see you." Mom smiled and nodded, "That's true. In the 5 years since you got married, Noxching has been completely devoted to you. We've all seen it, but it's been 5 years now. It's time for you to have a child." See, in my parents' eyes, Noxching has been nothing short of perfect to me. He's fooled everyone, including my parents. "Mom, we're in no hurry." I forced an unnatural, fake smile, hastening. "What I want now is for Noxching and Ruby Fong to taste the suffering I endured in my past life." After chatting with my mom for a while, Cao Gu's WeChat message finally arrived. It's an address, and he had already arranged to meet Anning. After saying goodbye to my mother, I resolutely went to find her. I met Anning. Seeing this girl and remembering how her blood had infected me in my past life, my eyes turned red with fury. Clenching my fists tightly, I gritted my teeth and endured it. In the end, no matter what this girl's intentions were, if Ruby Fong hadn't found her, I wouldn't have been infected. My enemies are only Ruby Fong and Noxching. How much did Ruby Fong pay you? I'll double it. You'd better be smart about this. The fact that I found you means I have solid evidence. What you're doing is illegal, and I can easily send you to the police station. I didn't give her any chance to argue, cutting off all her retreat with a single sentence. You're still a student with a long road ahead, even if you don't go to the police station. I imagine you wouldn't want others to know about your illness. I spoke with deep sincerity. Annie was shocked at first, then lowered her head, and finally raised it again. I had no choice. I needed the money. "What do you want me to do?" She wisely chose to cooperate with me. I had already planned my approach, originally intending to use the same method Ruby Fong employed in her previous life, substituting identities at the beauty salon and using the small knife that had drawn Anning's blood on Ruby Fong instead. If that were the case, I could have simply gone to the beauty salon to find the beautician, since Anning had already been arranged by Ruby Fong anyway. But as far as I know, that beauty salon was run by one of Ruby Fong's cousins. I don't think I can easily bribe that beautician. It might not only fail but also alert the enemy. Moreover, Ruby Fong, who planned all this, must be very vigilant. How could she not notice if she was slightly cut by a blade? Unlike my previous life, where I was asleep and didn't notice such a tiny scratch at all, you must have that kind of group, and you definitely know other patients. I want you to help me find a handsome man. Of course, you'll still go to the beauty salon this afternoon, but you know what to do. There's no denying that Ning is a smart person. She immediately guessed that me asking her to continue going to the beauty salon was just a pretense. She raised her price up front. "This is 2 separate tasks. I want 200,000, and I guarantee I'll get it done for you." Her speaking up put me even more at ease. The fact that they raised the price shows they're genuinely interested in collaborating. After reaching an agreement, I added her on WeChat. At 3 p.m. Ruby Fong came to the company to pick me up as promised and took me to the beauty salon, Eve Xia. I booked a deluxe package for both of us, facial treatments plus full body SPA. Let's just relax and enjoy ourselves today. Ruby Fong was beaming with energy, clearly in high spirits. I forced a smile, sitting in the passenger seat looking exhausted and silent. Look at you, didn't sleep well last night, did you? Ruby Fong asked a question, glancing at me with a hint of curiosity. I rubbed my temples. Ruby, Noxching didn't come home all night last night. Do you think something's up? I'm a little worried. I said this deliberately. Ruby Fong momentarily showed a flicker of panic before quickly reassuring. How could that be? Everyone knows Noxching treasures you dearly. You can doubt anyone but him. Didn't you ask him? I sighed and said, I did. He said he met an old classmate yesterday to discuss business, drank too much, and ended up sleeping at the hotel. Ruby Fong immediately breathed a sigh of relief, her eyes still carrying a hint of smugness as she comforted. There you go, men, after all, must prioritize their careers. As women, we should understand. After chatting with her for a while, we arrived at the beauty salon. This salon was the most luxurious in Jiangqing, typically frequented only by high society women. I didn't expect to run into Cao Gu here. He was clearly accompanying his mother. After Mrs. Gu was led inside by the beautician. He sat on the sofa in the lobby sipping tea, seemingly with no intention of leaving. When he saw me, he raised an eyebrow, glanced at Ruby Fong beside me, and didn't greet me, acting like a complete stranger. Wow, that man is so handsome. Was that his mother who just went in? Handsome and filial, what a catch. Ruby Fong was immediately drawn to him at first sight. Let's go, we should hurry inside too. I grabbed Ruby Fong and quickly entered the house. Ruby Fong and I have only known each other for 5 years. In the past, I considered Ruby Fong my best friend. I met Ruby Fong 5 years ago at a cocktail party. She was a waitress at the party and accidentally spilled wine on a man. The man didn't give her a hard time about it but instead took the opportunity to grope her. On the spot, she grabbed a wine bottle and smashed it over the man's head. I found her bold and somewhat street smart, seeing the man about to retaliate against her. I stepped in to help and talked him out of seeking revenge. Ruby Fong was grateful to me. Even though she was kicked out, she still waited for me at the entrance of the party, wanting to treat me to a meal. Later, I found out she hadn't landed a good job after graduation, so I hired her into the company. At first, she refused. Back then, the company was just starting out, and it took a lot of persuasion on my part to get her to join. Over the years of our friendship, I've come to know that Ruby Fong has a bit of a thing for good looks. Her biggest hobby is binge-watching dramas and idolizing heartthrobs, and her greatest dream is to marry a handsome man. Although I now know that Ruby Fong is Knox Cheng's mistress, and they were in a relationship before, Ruby Fong deliberately approached me back then. But some habits can't be fake. Cao Gu is handsome and wealthy, so it's no surprise Ruby Fong had that reaction just now. Getting involved with Knox Cheng while still lusting after another man. Trashy men and women really do deserve each other. I wish I could slap myself in the face. In my past life, how could I have thought Ruby Fong was being genuine? Clearly, someone like her is fickle and promiscuous, but this actually gives me an opportunity. If Ruby Fong had truly been unwavering toward Knox Cheng, it would have been harder to manipulate the situation. The two of us were already lying on the bed. And the beautician was exactly the same as in my past life, only this time Ning wouldn't be giving the beautician that razor blade stained with her own blood. But Ruby Fong spotted Ning's arrival in the adjacent private room. Clearly, she was thrilled, seemingly convinced everything was going smoothly. Naturally, I couldn't place complete trust in Ning either. After all, it concerned my own well-being, so I arranged for another friend to secretly keep an eye on her. If Ning were to suddenly back out, my friend would come over and call me away, but everything went smoothly and Ning didn't betray me, though I still got slightly cut. Ruby Fong noticed the wound on my eyebrow but didn't mention it, instead cheerfully pulling me along. The next day, I found Ning, paid half the fee, and urged her to quickly find the right person. As expected, in just a few days, Knox Cheng would take me to a bar. In my previous life, he took me to a bar. And I ended up getting so drunk that I woke up in bed with a male model. I thought I had lost my innocence, which is why I couldn't defend myself when diagnosed with AIDS. My parents also believed it was my fault, and seeing Knox Cheng take such good care of me, they trusted and were grateful to him. I only blamed myself, never suspecting Knox Cheng. Even after contracting AIDS, I felt guilty for his care. In this lifetime, this event will still occur, but it won't happen to me. Just as I was about to head home, a car stopped at the door, and Cao Gu stepped out from inside. I want to talk to you. Kalgu's eyes were filled with tension and worry as he opened the car door, gesturing for me to get in. I didn't refuse, and Noxchung called again to say he'd be home late. As expected, he must have been celebrating with Ruby Fong. We arrived by a riverside. The night was slightly chilly, and there weren't many people strolling along the bank. Kalgu looked around to ensure no one was nearby before speaking. That Anning has AIDS. She went to the beauty salon today too. Eve Xia, what are you doing? Don't you realize how dangerous this is? Seeing the worry in his eyes, I didn't want to hide the truth from him deep down. She was brought in by Noxchung and Ruby Fong. Ruby Fong, oh right, my best friend, the one you saw today. My husband and my best friend got together and even wanted to kill me to take over my assets. I kept it brief and didn't explain how I found out. Kalgu is a smart man, otherwise, in my past life, he wouldn't have sensed something was off about my situation and investigated on his own. In the previous life, he had already discovered that Ruby Fong and Noxchung were in a relationship during their university days. Although they later broke up, Ruby Fong remained Noxchung's mistress all along. A year after graduating from college, Ruby Fong sought out Noxchung again. Learned that he was the third son of the Shen family, and the two reconciled. At that time, Noxchung and I were already engaged. Ruby Fong deliberately approached me and became my close confidant. During my time in the psychiatric hospital, I would have moments of clarity followed by bouts of madness. In my lucid moments, I recalled some small details and began to suspect something, so I had to pretend my madness was worsening. Once, the two of them came to visit together and even flaunted their affection right in front of me, who was already losing my mind. I seized the moment to hit them but was dragged back by the doctor and given a sedative. At the time, I wasn't truly unconscious. I heard Ruby Fong say to my seemingly sleeping self, Noxchung was always mine, you were just the other woman. If it weren't for your money, how could I have tolerated you monopolizing him for 5 years? Now, your company is mine. Noxchung is mine, and you can stay here forever. If you know what's good for you, you'd be better off killing yourself. It'd save you from living in misery. At this thought, my eyes filled with hatred. Letting them suffer the same fate as my past life in this lifetime is already too lenient for them. I will send them to hell. Eve Xia, are you okay? Kalgu noticed my dazed expression and waved a hand in front of my eyes, snapping me out of my thoughts. I snapped back to reality, seeing the concern in his eyes, and couldn't help but smile gratefully, remembering how he had tirelessly worked for my sake in my past life. I'm fine. Kalgu still seemed uneasy and asked, that day I went to keep an eye on Ning, but she didn't make any moves. This is too risky. What are you planning to do now? Do you need my help? He truly is a smart person. Upon hearing me speak the truth, he immediately realized I was seeking revenge. Cal, thank you, but I can manage on my own. If I really need help, I'll definitely reach out to you. I sincerely expressed my gratitude. In my previous life, had it not been for him uncovering the truth and coming to the mental hospital to tell me, even if I were reborn, I wouldn't be this clear-headed. He has already helped me a lot. Then be careful, and don't push yourself too hard. Nothing is more important than your own health. Don't take such risks again in the future. Kalgu still seemed uneasy. After all, if Anning had turned against me today, it would have been disastrous. I repeatedly assured him that I wouldn't take such risks again, and only then did Kalgu feel at ease. Just a few days later, Noxchung took me to a bar. You've been too exhausted lately. Consider this a chance to unwind today. Under the pretense of helping me relax, Noxchung brought me along to a friend's birthday party. Unsurprisingly, Ruby Fong was there too. Ruby Fong was also very happy to see me and even complained that I was always busy with work, leaving no time to go shopping with her. She enthusiastically invited me to go for a beauty treatment together next time. As usual, I was intimate and at ease with her, but I rarely drank. Seeing a bunch of grown men making a ruckus and drinking merrily, Ruby Fong pulled me up. You men are too noisy. Keep drinking. Eve Xia and I are going out to dance. Noxchung waved his hand grandly. Go ahead, have fun. And so, I was led by Ruby Fong to the dance floor outside. The men and women here were dancing wildly, and the music was deafening. Eve Xia, look at those male models. They're really handsome. Eve Xia always deliberately points out the male models to me. I glance over and see them dancing attentively with some women. It was the same in my past life, but I wasn't interested then. Seeing my lack of interest, Ruby Fong eventually led me to the bar and gave me a spiked drink. This time around, however, I'm watching with great interest. He is quite handsome, but look at that man over there. He looks like a celebrity. I pointed to a man not far away, the one I had asked Anning to find. True to her word, even among a group of male models, this man stood out effortlessly. Sure enough, Ruby Fong's gaze was drawn to him, dressed in designer brands. The man wasn't one of the models here, yet his rugged charm was undeniable. This is Ruby Fong's type, wealthy and handsome, yet not a male model here. He could easily catch her eye. Ruby Fong's gaze was somewhat infatuated, but she clearly hadn't forgotten her own task. After watching for a while, she composed herself and took me to the bar. Yves Xia, that man looks to be in his 30s, successful in his career. I wonder if he's married. She peeked while handing me a glass of wine, trying to divert my attention. I also glanced in that direction, but out of the corner of my eye, I noticed her flicking her fingernail against the rim of the glass. If he's already married and still comes to the bar this late instead of staying with his wife, he probably isn't a good man, and if he's not married, Yves Xia, your chance has come. I took the glass, turned her around with me, leaned back against the bar, and shifted my gaze directly to the handsome guy. The handsome guy was dancing passionately, and Ruby Fong was completely mesmerized. While turning around, I had already taken the opportunity to switch the wine glasses, so as soon as I turned back, I immediately took a sip. Ruby, after drinking this glass of wine, be bold and just go ask directly. If you meet someone you like, you must seize the opportunity. I'll give you a heads up. Ruby Fong nodded, turned to grab the cup on the table, took a couple of sips, and didn't forget to clink glasses with me. I drank too. The effects wouldn't kick in that quickly, so Ruby Fong boldly went up to flirt with the handsome guy. I sat at the bar, watching her chat with him. Before long, they were even hugging and dancing together. They seemed to be having a pleasant conversation. Seeing her glance over, I pretended to feel dizzy and slumped onto the bar counter. Noticing this, Ruby Fong started to walk over, but after just 2 steps, she also felt a heavy dizziness. Having drunk a lot today, she simply assumed it was the alcohol taking effect. At that moment, the handsome guy came over and hugged her directly. The handsome guy glanced at me and left, carrying the completely unconscious Ruby Fong. I raised my head, tipped the bartender, and left the bar. Knox Ching came out and couldn't find me. Thinking everything had gone as planned, he looked around but didn't see Ruby Fong. Just as he was about to make a phone call, I immediately stepped in front of him. Honey, are you guys done? Let's head back too. Knox Ching froze mid-motion, put away his phone, and glanced around before asking, where's Ruby Fong? Weren't you together? I sighed and said, don't even mention it. She said she'd keep me company drinking, but ended up getting drunk herself. I already had someone send her home. Knox Cheng's eyes showed a mix of suspicion and anger. It seemed he was mentally cursing Ruby Fong for being more of a hindrance than a help, as I held on to him. He subtly tried to resist. After all, in his eyes, I was now someone who had contracted AIDS. He naturally keeps his distance. However, I don't have to worry about him suddenly wanting to get close to me at night. On the day we returned from the beauty salon, Knox Cheng used the excuse of his snoring potentially waking me up to sleep in separate rooms. I didn't expose his aloofness and continued to act affectionately, pulling him out of the bar as if we were still in love. Ruby Fong had a wild night with that handsome guy, but this night would mark the beginning of her nightmare. The next day, I called Ruby Fong at a calculated time. Ruby, did you have fun with the hottie last night? Knox Cheng even asked about you, but I didn't dare interrupt your good time, so I just said you had too much to drink and left early. I took the initiative, and Ruby Fong naturally went along with it. Hey, Yves Xia. Thank you, I really did drink too much, but are you okay? Did you go back with Knox Cheng yesterday? Ruby Fong's voice sounded nervous, with a hint of regret and self-reproach. I also drank a bit too much, feeling dizzy. Luckily, my husband came out and took me home. Ugh, I should really drink less in the future. My head is still spinning now. Anyway, I won't keep you from your good time. I'm just glad you're okay. I'm going to sleep a bit more. After hanging up the phone, a slow smile curled at the corners of my lips. I hired private investigators to keep an eye on Ruby Fong and Knox Cheng. Sure enough, the two met that very day, and Knox Cheng gave Ruby Fong a harsh scolding, saying she couldn't distinguish the importance of things. However, both of them agreed that I had already contracted HIV. Even without photos of me with the male model, it would be hard to explain, and it wouldn't hinder their major plans. Next, they just needed to coax me into getting tested and obtain my medical report. To this end, Knox Cheng provided benefits to the company's employees by arranging comprehensive health checkups for everyone at the end of the year. As company leaders, he and I naturally took this opportunity to get checked as well. Of course, I didn't refuse and calmly underwent the checkup alongside the employees. By then, over a month had passed since the incident at the bar. The medical reports were, of course, confidential. After receiving mine, I deliberately stayed in the office the entire day. Nox Chung saw this and came over to comfort me. Eve Xia, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Let me see. He tried to take my report to look, but I stopped him. No, honey, if I were sick, would you still love me? I held his hand, as if pleading. Seeing me in this state, a glint of triumph flashed in his eyes, but it was quickly replaced with tenderness as he clasped my hand in return. How could I ever reject you? No matter what illness you have, it's my fault for not taking better care of you. His face was full of deep affection, as if his devotion to me would last until death. The day I received the report in my past life, he said the same thing. Even after seeing the report, moved by his words, I handed the company over to him directly and went home to recuperate. Honey, you're so kind. I might need to go home and rest for a while. It'll be tough on you during this time. I didn't let him see the report. And the more I avoided it, the more convinced he became that I had AIDS. I'll keep your report with mine for safekeeping. His report was also delivered to me, still unopened. Clearly, he didn't care about his own report either, showing no intention to open and read it. Instead, he asked with concern, Eve Xia, don't scare me. Whatever illness you have, we'll treat it step by step. I felt a wave of sadness but pretended to stay composed, deliberately taking a step back to keep my distance from him. Husband, my voice choked up. But I still managed to suppress my grief and say, it's nothing, I'm just a little tired. Nox Chung ignored my aloofness, probably overjoyed in his heart. Seeing me like this, he must be certain that I saw the HIV-positive report and that's why I'm acting this way. Then you go back and rest well, I'll take care of the company. Nox Chung reached out his hand and eventually stroked my hair, his expression gentle, as if he truly were a loving and devoted husband. Showing consideration for his sick wife, from that day on, I stopped going to the company, staying at home all day sighing in despair. And I also refused any physical contact from Nox Chung. I had placed my medical report in a locked drawer, but 2 days before the annual meeting, I discovered that the report had been stolen. Everything is the same as in the previous life, except this time they have no photos, while I have many. The report was, of course, fake. But by the time of the annual meeting, it would become real. Nox Chung probably didn't even notice that his health had been deteriorating recently, with red sores appearing on his arms. Ruby Fong didn't attend the medical checkup because I sent her on a business trip that day, so she had no idea she was already infected. Moreover, she hadn't noticed anything at all. After all, it hadn't been long, and she was completely engrossed in her passionate affair with the handsome guy. Although I was sick and recuperating at home, as the boss, I still had to attend the company's year-end party. Today was the main event, and I dressed to impress. The company's annual party was grand, attended not just by our company but also by my parents and the Shin family. I saw Ruby Fong today, dressed even more glamorously than usual, though she seemed a bit off color. I pretended not to notice. Unexpectedly, Cal Gu showed up uninvited. I figured he probably didn't trust me to handle things alone, so I reluctantly had someone usher him in. After the host's opening remarks, the annual meeting commenced, with the first agenda item being a review of the company's progress this year. The large screen displayed the company's major achievements this year along with some images, and everyone was watching attentively. I also stared intently at the big screen. The video wasn't long, and after 5 minutes, the tone suddenly changed. Several photos appeared on the screen. They were photos of Nox Chung and Ruby Fong completely naked, scrolling one after another, comparable to a Japanese adult film. The crowd erupted in an uproar, and I was utterly shocked, staring at the large screen in disbelief. Nox Chung and Ruby Fong widened their eyes in astonishment, with Nox Chung exclaiming in alarm, "What are you doing? What the hell are you all doing? Stop it now." But no one listened to him. After the photos scrolled through several pages, suddenly a massive medical report appeared on the screen and froze in place. It was none other than Nox Chung's name, and the content below involuntarily made everyone keep their distance from him. AIDS. Oh my god. Nox Chung, the third son of the prestigious Shin Group and general manager of Xi'an Jewelry, actually has AIDS. The guests, including the employees, began to whisper among themselves. Nox Chung and Ruby Fong were suddenly left alone in all directions. Even the space around me was empty. Honey, what's going on here? You two. One is my best friend, the other is my husband. How could you be together like this? I was on the verge of fainting. You've got AIDS. I became frightened, tears streaming down with each sob. No, it's not like that. I'm not sick. You're the one who's sick. How could it be me? Didn't you go home to recuperate because you were ill? What illness do I have? Knox Chung shouted at me, his eyes filled with disbelief. I just have a uterine fibroid, I don't have AIDS. I left the company to take traditional Chinese medicine for treatment. I told the truth. And my mother immediately rushed over, standing in front of me. Knox Chung, you're the one who's been reckless, fooling around with women outside and catching a disease, yet you dare to falsely accuse my daughter. What are you scheming? My daughter has always been chaste and virtuous. Since her medical checkup, she's been sleeping separately from you to recover. How could she possibly have that filthy disease? My mother was so furious that she directly pulled out my medical report. Although the report had been stolen, that one was fake. The one in my mother's hands was the real one. Knox Chung shook his head, looking at the information displayed. Everyone else also saw it clearly and turned their gazes toward Knox Chung. Ruby Fong remained silent the whole time. She was terrified, clearly feeling guilty. Look, there are rashes on Mr. Shin's neck. Oh my god, this must be AIDS, someone shouted, startling Knox Chung, who immediately covered his neck in panic. Everyone immediately stepped back again, afraid of getting contaminated by something dirty. My mother also pulled me back, keeping me far away from that Knox Chung, heartbroken. I turned to look at Ruby Fong. Ruby Fong, I trusted you the most. I was the one who brought you into the company and made you the financial director. How could you betray me by getting involved with my husband? How could you do this? You're carrying on like this with him. He has AIDS, so you must have it too, right? How could you do this to me? As I spoke, I couldn't hold back my tears. Contracting AIDS and being betrayed by both my best friend and my husband, either one of these is a heart-wrenching pain that anyone can empathize with. Sure enough, the crowd began to condemn them, one remark after another. There must be some misunderstanding. Knox Chung isn't that kind of person. My father-in-law stepped in to mediate. Misunderstanding. Are the photos fake? Is the medical report fake? Shin Da-cheong. I treated you like a brother when I lent you 100 million to help you through tough times. Is this how your Shin family repays my daughter? My father immediately stepped forward and punched my father-in-law. Sweetheart, don't be afraid, we'll divorce him and make him leave with nothing. And the Shin family, that 100 million debt must be repaid immediately. My father was furious. He never expected that the husband he had so carefully chosen for me would turn out to be such a disgrace. Everyone was familiar with the Shin family's silver mines, and upon hearing my father's words, they all began to criticize. How unethical of the Shin family, after being helped by others, instead of cherishing their daughter, they actually humiliated her like this. Yeah, Knox Chung really has no standards. That woman isn't half as good-looking as President Xia. Who knows, maybe there's more than just Ruby Fong. How else would he have gotten AIDS? This must be from sleeping around too much. Oh my god, thank goodness it wasn't passed to President Xia. What would she have done otherwise? President Xia is lucky. She happened to have a minor health issue during her checkup and ended up sleeping separately from him. Otherwise, who knows how unlucky she could have been. It's bad enough that this man was cheating outside, but he almost dragged his wife into it too. What a scoundrel. The crowd buzzed with gossip, but in my past life, all of it had been directed at me. I stared at Knox Chung and Ruby Fong, not wanting to miss a single expression on their faces. Their reactions were far more entertaining than mine had been in my previous life. Knox Chung slapped Ruby Fong across the face. It was you, wasn't it? He knew very well whether he had been promiscuous. Aside from his wife, there had only been Ruby Fong. It must have been Ruby Fong who infected him. You hit me. It was clearly you. What does it have to do with me? I could say you're the one who infected me. Ruby Fong naturally wouldn't admit it. Although she hadn't undergone a medical checkup, she had been dating that man frequently during this period. Knox Chung contracting AIDS made her vaguely suspect that she might have been the one who transmitted it to him. The two accused each other and instantly started brawling, shocking everyone present. At that moment, the large screen suddenly began scrolling again. I was surprised. And everyone else was equally puzzled, all turning to look. This wasn't my arrangement. On the screen was a university campus, still featuring Ruby Fong and Knox Chung. Their faces were still youthful, but it was clear they were deeply in love. It turns out they were former lovers, and after Knox Chung got married, their old flame reignited. Then, at the very cocktail party where I first met Ruby Fong, she was already sneaking around and getting cozy with Knox Chung on the same day. I was just a wall away from them. Ugh. So Ruby Fong deliberately got close to CEO Xia. How shameless, being the other woman and still trying to become best friends with the wife. That's just heart-wrenching. Knox Chung is even worse. They must have planned it together, flirting with another woman right in front of his wife and then making her the wife's best friend. Even TV dramas wouldn't dare script something like this. Why would they do it? What else? For the money, of course. Our Shiyan jewelry was invested in by CEO Xia before marriage. She's the largest shareholder. The crowd saw through everything clearly, looking at the two with eyes full of contempt, truly the target of public scorn. I saw my parents were already furious. My father even disregarded Knox Cheng's aides and went straight up to punch him. You bastard, you absolute bastard, I'll kill you. I quickly stepped forward and grabbed him. If Knox Cheng gets beaten until he bleeds, that's carrying the virus. Even the Shin family members were frustrated at their own helplessness, none daring to speak up. Only my mother-in-law was loudly cursing at that Ruby Fong. You shameless vixen, we should have sent you abroad back then. How dare you come back to seduce Knox Cheng? Her outburst only served to further confirm their previous illicit affair, and that the Shin family had known about it all along. The Shin family was aware Knox Cheng had someone else in his heart. Yet they still forced him to marry me. Their intentions couldn't be clearer. Unable to lay a hand on Knox Cheng, my father stormed over to Knox Cheng's father and gave him a thorough beating. The big screen continued to show even more unspeakable scenes. It turned out to be photos and videos of Ruby Fong and that handsome guy with AIDS, so graphic that people couldn't bear to look. Knox Cheng went berserk and lunged at Ruby Fong. You slut. You filthy slut, it was you. You actually cheated on me with another man behind my back. You shameless, promiscuous whore, you ruined me. He seemed unsatisfied and kept beating Ruby Fong until her nose bled. No one dared to stop them, as the two of them were nothing but trouble now. The scene was chaotic for a while. I looked at Cal Gu, who was watching the commotion from behind, and nodded at him in gratitude. No need to guess, it must be him. In the previous life, it was also him who uncovered these things. I didn't expect that in this life. He still went to investigate. Everyone, today's unexpected situation is regrettable. I need to handle some family matters now, so let's disperse for the time being. I had no choice but to step forward to take charge, and everyone cast sympathetic glances my way. However, before they could leave, the police arrived and headed straight for Knox Cheng and Ruby Fong. We've received a report accusing you of embezzlement, bribery, and illegally purchasing large quantities of raw materials at inflated prices. The amount involved is substantial, and the evidence is conclusive. You'll have to come with us. With that, the officers immediately produced handcuffs. The corners of my mouth curled up as I watched the police handcuff them. I sued them in court in my capacity as a shareholder of the company, during my leave for recovery at home. Knox Cheng made the decision to purchase the silver mine from the Shin Group without the board's approval, and at 3 times the market price. As the financial officer, Ruby Fong approved the payment without following the company's regulations and approval procedures. Knox Cheng abused his power for personal gain, involving a substantial amount, which constitutes a crime and is even suspected of transferring marital assets. As for Ruby Fong, she violated the accounting law and the company law, and even accepted huge kickbacks from Knox Cheng, constituting embezzlement. In my previous life, they did the same thing, but I was the one who contracted AIDS, moved by Knox Cheng's so-called devotion, and later sent to a mental hospital. The entire company fell into Knox Cheng's hands, leaving him free to act recklessly. I never expected that he would transfer the money to the Shin Group so early. This time I've caught them red-handed, and I certainly won't let them off. Off to prison they go. They already have AIDS, and the torment in prison will be far worse than in a mental hospital. The Shin Group is finished too. My father will sue to recover the loans, and the money Shiyan Company used to buy the silver mine will also be reclaimed. The Shin family will plummet from the clouds into hell, left penniless and even buried in debt, without anyone to look after them. Life in prison won't be easy for Knox Cheng and Ruby Fong, even if they're released after a few years. They're now infamous in Jiangqing and have contracted AIDS. Their lives outside will only be more miserable. Eve Xia, I was wrong, Eve Xia, it was all Ruby Fong, that wretched woman. She seduced me. Please spare me. I don't want to go to prison. Ha ha ha, why did I get AIDS? Why, I'm finished. Knox Cheng approached me, babbling and begging for mercy. Cal Gu pulled me away, stepping back a few paces. When Knox Cheng saw him, his laughter grew even more deranged. I did nothing wrong. We were meant to be together. It's you. How could you so easily win him over? You stole him from me. I did nothing wrong. Ruby Fong was also unhinged, but she clearly didn't believe she had done anything wrong. Why is it that you were born with everything, while I work so hard and still can't find someone who truly cares for me? Why, she's gone mad too. You're not wrong. So is her mother the one at fault? Since you love each other, just stay locked together forever. Why must you harm others? Cal Gu retorted, And when Ruby Fong saw Calgu's face, she seemed to recall the incident at the beauty salon. Haha, so that's how it is. That's how it is. It's you. You knew all along, didn't you? No wonder you didn't catch that illness. No, it's you. It's you who made me catch it, isn't it? She finally understood, laughing hysterically at me, her eyes filled with hatred. I remembered in the previous life at the mental hospital, when they thought I was asleep. They were affectionate in front of me and called me a foolish clown. At that time, I hated them just as much. I don't understand what you're saying. If you have mental issues, I can request the judge to send you directly to a psychiatric hospital. Wouldn't that be better? I whispered softly, and her pupils suddenly dilated. She would never figure out why I knew all about her and Knox Cheng's plans. Their plan was precisely to brainwash me into being mentally ill and then have me committed to a psychiatric hospital. The words psychiatric hospital seemed to startle her. Her eyes filled with fear, and she didn't say another word. Everyone had been taken away. Looking at the empty hall, I finally burst into tears. Mom and Dad came over and hugged me. I wiped away my tears and grasped their hands. Mom, Dad, let's go home. Tomorrow I'll file for divorce from him, and from now on, I'll live with you, daughter. I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I misjudged people and harmed you. Dad couldn't help but slap himself. I quickly stopped him, and the three of us hugged each other tightly. Calgu stood nearby, watching us in silence. My gaze met his, and seeing the heartache and guilt in his eyes, I sniffled, my face full of gratitude. Calgu, thank you, whether in my past life or this one.